fact that I came to write this book was almost serendipity. I grew up in Oxford, Mississippi, and lived there until I was 15. And my family, we were all members of St. Peter's Episcopal Church, where in 1957, Duncan Gray came as rector. And so when the riot over James Meredith's enrollment at University of Mississippi happened, I was about 13. My family we were dealing with some medical crises with my father. And I was aware of what was going on, and as I write in the preface to the book, I even was out on the campus with my mother and a friend early the evening of the riot. I was aware afterwards of Bishop Gray's sermons to the congregation at St. Peter's, and the tension that was there, not only in the church and the parish, but in the town of Oxford. Everybody knew who the people with racist sentiments were, the people who opposed what Bishop Gray was trying to do, and everybody knew who the folks who supported him were. So anyway, when I was in 1964, my mother and I moved to Vicksburg, Mississippi, and then I went off to college in North Carolina, and lost sight of Oxford and what had gone on there for many years. Got married, had children, went to graduate school, so on. But in the 1990s, when our daughter was doing college visits, and we took her to University of the South, in Sewanee, Tennessee, a college she thought she was interested in. And we stayed over on a Sunday for chapel, in the chapel there at Sewanee, as it's usually called, because our daughter was interested in singing in the choir. And who should be preaching that Sunday but Duncan Gray? Well, I hadn't seen Duncan Gray for probably 15 years. Hadn't thought of him often. I was aware he had been elected Bishop of Mississippi. But my attention was elsewhere. So we greeted each other after the service, and I was happy to see him, and he was happy to see me. And we agreed that if our daughter Abigail should decide to go to Sewanee, that he would be willing for me to come talk to him, because my memories of that period, 1962 and through 63, 64, were very vague. And I was just curious in exploring that part of my past again. So, in fact, our daughter Abigail did go to Sewanee. I did go up to visit, and I did sit down with Bishop Gray, and he began to tell me the story of what had happened. And as I listened, I finally said, "Bishop Gray, someone needs to write your biography." And he said, "Well, I've always thought that when I retired, I'd write my memoirs. But the more I talked and the more I thought about it, I realized, no, he's a perfectly good writer, but he's not going to take the time to sit down and write about himself. That would be too self-centered for him." So eventually I pressed him on this, and we agreed that he would be happy to talk to me, and that for me to work on something. I don't think either of us thought that it would take as long as it did, or involve quite as much interviewing and conversation as it did. But the more I got into it, the more convinced I became that this was a man whose life needed to be written.